Yeonmi Park, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy woman. I see you all over the place. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you must be, we're going to go through everything, but when you see everything that's going on now, this has to be a flashback of when you were in North Korea. Like you see all these things going on. You have the COVID, and then, we've talked to a bunch of different people, and it's all this stuff to create fear. And when you were growing up, they starved you. You were all you could think
Mhm.
about was food, so you wouldn't look at what was really going on. How much, how worried are you the way things are going right now in America?
I guess, some days actually, to be honest, I'm a bit hopeful, and sometimes I'm not. And especially when I live in a big city, it's the changes, the destruction is real. The city that used to go to university, and now I'm walking every day, I don't recognize it anymore.
Yeah,
But when I go visit like rural Americas, it feels still normal. So it's like going back and forth between that. Mhm.
and how do you think other countries are looking at us?
I think I travel a lot to other like abroad, and we became a joke to other countries. And when I tell them about this, the pronoun stuff and the language control, they just laugh. They think I'm joking, right? They think I somehow made up this stuff. Like you cannot be saying that women can be a man and there's no such a thing called a mother, like pregnant women, right? It's like a birthing people, and they think that like I'm so making stuff up to them. And like these are like real stuff we are doing. It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, I have a friend in Pakistan, and I talked to him, and he said if any of this stuff would go in here, you'd be thrown out of a bridge or off a bridge or into the ocean. Just a little bit that's going on. And then when we had this Jovan Pulitzer in, and he was explaining how they're doing this the whole woke thing and all this nut,
Mhm.
and then they're giving 89 billion with a B to Black Lives Matter to market everything in the direction that they want with the transgender, with the schools, like kids 3, 4 asking them, you know, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? It's just unbelievable. And now you have your
Mhm.
book, a North Korean defector search for freedom in America. For those who don't know, what is a defector? When you say defector, what does that mean?
It's a bit different than being a refugee. Refugees are usually like you flee the country for economic or political reasons. But de facto is really uh, how I understand it is like I actually understand what's happening in North Korea and I defy the regime by defecting the country. So there are a lot of North Korean refugees that came out and they live like, peaceful life and doesn't speak out. But I actively come out, expose the brutality of the dictatorship in North Korea and China. So I do call myself a defector.
And how hard is it to get out of North Korea? You're poor, and I was watching a bunch of your podcasts and your books. So if like say you meet a guy and he's at the top and he's making good
Mm.
money, but you're at the bottom, you can never do that. You always have to stay with the lower. So if you're poor, you marry poor. That's just the way it is. It doesn't matter if your grandparents are poor. You're poor forever, right? That's how it works. In a
Yeah.
sense.
It's Yeah, it's like when you are born in North Korea, we born into different caste system. But the caste system is not about what I did. It's nothing about my character. It was already determined by my ancestor status. So, if my ancestors were pure like blood communists, that means I have a good standing in the society. And if they were capitalists or intellectual who did not like the socialism, then I born into lower caste and you stay that till your death and your children follow that same thing. So there's nothing the individual does can change your situation. And that's why when I came to America, then when people are saying like, look at how horrible capitalism is, that we have inequality. And I was looking at it, these people, like look at even Elon Musk, right? People who become billionaire because they change their own like situation by innovating and by starting a business. In North Korea, you cannot do that. So to me, like the sign of inequality is not a sign of like oppression. It's really a sign of progress. And would you rather be in a country where 99% people like dying from starvation are all equal? Or would you live in a country where everybody have a room to move forward, right? So how does the American elite focusing on inequality and somehow using that as their propaganda to brainwash people? That's a sign of injustice. Therefore, American system is crooked and we need to destroy this country and destroy the capitalism. And to me, poverty is the enemy. And that is the worst thing that can ever happen to you, really.
And then what gave you the courage to start writing a book on all this? I mean, your newest one, and thank you. I mean, this is really good. This is really cool. You can see the difference.
Um,
But what gave you the courage? I mean, it's not like you're just dealing with John Doe down the street. I mean, you got, the King John, I can never say his name right, but King Jong-un and
yeah.
all those, no offense, but nutcases over there, and then they know you're coming out speaking to everybody, making a name for yourself. People are watching. What gave you the courage to not only write one, but write more and not care
Mm,
and get the word out how things are and the direction that you're seeing now that
mm,
America's going in? And really, you're trying to keep America. What I'm seeing is you're just trying to keep America from turning into a North Korea.
yeah. So I think it's like for American people who were born in freedom, like fish cannot imagine living outside of water, right? That's what all they know. Americans, all they know is really life in freedom. They cannot even fathom a life that like living in no freedom and actual true oppression. And all the oppression that they are creating here is not actual oppression, right? And so for me, is that when I actually escaping from North Korea, at least there was a hope that I had a place to escape to. That was America or South Korea. But if America falls, where do we go? We have no place. Are you gonna escape North Korea or China?
Yeah.
It's I think that's like the America is a beacon of hope for humanity, and I cannot imagine the world without America. What this country stands for individual liberty. So I think that's like this is a last attempt, last hope for humanity. And I mean, I have every stake because I am raising a son in this country, and I'm not going to become like my grandmother. Like when I was born in North Korea, I did not even know that I was oppressed. When people keep asking me like why North Koreans are not starting revolution, and I said like, how do you fight to be free if you don't know you're a slave? And my grandmother knew.
Mhm.
She lived the time before Kim's. She knew there was like alternative life existed. But because they did not fight back when I was born in the country, I thought that was all about it. I never even seen the map of the world.
Wow.
So now I'm in America, and listen, I know I see the threats. I recognize this danger that is arising, and I can fight back. And I worry someday when it comes many generations later, like 3 generations later, they will not even know. They will think this is normal, right? So while time remains, that's why I'm trying to fight back.
And it seems like, especially with the social media, that they're just blasting all this social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook. You and I use it. I go on it for business. I'm on and
Mm.
off. I don't get
Yeah.
wrapped up in that. But you can see you can't even have a conversation with somebody nowadays. All they're doing is feeling for their phone, and again, it seems like they're doing what happened with you and your grandmother in North Korea, just in a more technology way. Where here,
Mm.
don't look at this. Look at your phone for 3 minutes. Look at the news that's paid off by the above. What do
Mm.
you how I always say this, how do you pull someone out of that? Because like my generation, I grew up differently. You weren't on the phone all the time. You were outside doing stuff. If you wanted to do anything, you better mow the lawn, crazy stuff like that. Now you have this generation that it's okay to be on your phone all day, and there's no reward for someone who works hard. They're giving trophies to
Mm.
everybody. You saw
Yeah.
just what happened and then I believe it was in Michigan. I don't know if you saw that. They graduated from Michigan and they separated by race, if you were BLM, if you were this, if you were Asian, whatever. Whereas before, if you graduate, everybody's happy, blah blah blah. You go have a party, and they're separate. They're literally separating it. How do we go about changing that where we're more united. When you have these powers above with just trillions of dollars that they're throwing around at everything on their agenda. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Breaking news, Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right, they are once again revolutionizing men's grooming with brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shave your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match your carpet by going to Manscaped.com and using code MSCS Media for 20% off and free shipping. No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to all the stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. It all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is a monster of fixing faces. First off, this cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. No more messing around in drawers, this color one, that color one, all with one guard. Plus, it's waterproof, so you can shave in the shower and avoid all that hair in the sink. The Pro Kit doesn't end there, though. First, there's the beard shampoo and conditioner. You need to remember your hair is different. Next, Manscaped's beard oil. Top it off with beard balm. The Pro Kit also comes with 3 different gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code MSCS Media at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped.com. Use the code MSCS Media. Manscaped Beard Hedger, 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 lengths. Link is in the description below. This episode is sponsored by ZBiotics. What is ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic? The ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is a genetically engineered probiotic you drink before drinking alcohol to avoid that rough next morning and get back to living your life. PhD scientists invented it because they know the real problem is not dehydration. It's a toxic byproduct of alcohol, and ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the only product that breaks it down. Just remember to drink responsibly and plenty of rest too. Every time I have ZBiotics before drinking, I'm amazed at how good I feel the next day. ZBiotics is a must-have for me because it means I'm still going to make my daily workout even if I have a few drinks the night before. That's important to me. You can get ZBiotics for 15% off your first order using my code MSCS Media at checkout. I recommend getting the 6-pack. That's what I got. It's a great deal. You have a couple extra to share with friends. Go to zbiotics.com/MSCS Media. That's Z as in zebra, biotics, BIOTICS.com/MSCS Media, or scan the QR code on the screen right now and get 15% off your first order. You will not be sorry. Link is in the description below.
I think the first thing that we need to recognize is when people are divided, who wins eventually is the politicians in the top. That the first thing that regime did to Northern people is dividing people and planting distrust between people. So first thing my mother told me as a young girl is don't even whisper because the birds and mice could hear me. Because spies were literally everywhere. We did not know if our uncle was a spy, our neighbor was a spy, my friend was a spy. And when you don't trust each other, where do you lean back to? Your government? Now, of course, they are not your friends. So now I come to America. It's people literally demonizing each other for their political opinions. And people do not trust each other, right? They think the other side is going to kill you. Like the right-wingers, they're going to all come kill black people. Some like crazy people on the right side also too, like they're all going to destroy us. Like this distrust is a perfect timing for the dictatorship to rise. And I see that every day. So for us to recognize that this division is not going to help any of us. And also, like, it's all going back to self-government. If you're parents, I think you have a responsibility to raise your children. And I actually send my child to, of course, government school, and it's just horrible. Like, I have to work, I have to send him, I cannot homeschool. But if you can do that, if you can somehow find a way working with our parents to homeschool, I really think that's a way. Sending your children to this public education, that is an indoctrination camp. I went to college in America, and that's when I started seeing that America, actually, the American classrooms were not that different than North Korean classrooms. The things they were teaching, like I was at Columbia University and my professor was saying, all the problem that we have in the world, it is because of greedy capitalism, and the only solution is a communist revolution. And that is the same thing the North Korean classroom was talking about. So we have to somehow, this education system is so bad right now.
Yeah, I just had a daughter. She's 2.5, and there is no way in
Oh,
hell I would put. I mean, if whatever I had, there's no way I would put her in public school. I'm even afraid of like, what do you think about private school? I mean, I have they gotten to them yet? Where they're in there with, here's 20 million or whatever they're giving, and it sounds like a joke, but that's what they're doing. They're going in there with piles of money and saying, look, this is the agenda, right?
so yeah, so my son hasn't started like private. We are trying to send him to Catholic school, but he goes daycare, right? That's like daycare is not private, public actually. And I was so shocked. Like when I was asking to clean up his toys after he's playing, he says, "Oh, that hurts my feelings." And in my life, I never talk about it hurts my feelings. Nobody says that word in my family. We don't talk about the stuff. So this is only coming from his school. And like at the moment, what do you do to your kid? Like, of course, you acknowledge, you want to validate their emotions, but like the school teachers already brainwashing them. What it matters is not about logic and fact. All that matters is how you feel. Your feelings, words, right? That's the most important thing. And that's all about how you feel. Like the emotion-driven politics is already planted in children who's like 4 years old.
And then that way, when they grow up and they're 10 and 12 and 14 and 21, now they're brainwashed where, oh, this hurts me, this, that, the other, the whole bullying thing. Like when I was growing up, I always say this at nausea. If I went to my grandfather, who I didn't get the height, he was 6'6", a big guy. If I went to my grandpa and said, "Hey, I'm getting bullied," he would be like, "What do you mean bullied?" He'd be like, "Well, stand up for yourself," or like,
Mhm.
"Oh no, don't do this or don't do that." It's just such a culture change so quick, and you started to see it in college. Do you think it's all political motivated, and then that the long term is just that everyone just depends on the government because oh, don't bump me because it's bullying, I'm going to go to the government. Like you can't even, like, you have a child, I have a child. Sometimes I think, if you want to discipline them, what do you say to them? If you say, hey, like my daughter's name's Giabella, like, Giabella, sit there, no, sit there, you're not moving. Then when she's older, she goes to school, oh, daddy bullied me. Next thing you know, I got child, you know what I mean? Next thing you know, you got
Yeah.
child and youth coming to your, knocking on your door. And I'm like, I put her on timeout. And it just
Mm.
seems that that's the direction they want. And then everything goes right to government. Am I getting everything right?
Absolutely. I think they want to be the ultimate authority, even on your child, right? They have the ultimate decision making power. And one thing that I noticed is that I lived in South Korea before, and I had another nurse defector friend coming from South Korea recently, and she has a 7 years old child. And she was telling me since her child was 6, he was like having no problem being alone at home for like several hours at a time. And I did that in North Korea too. Like it was like okay, but I think I was too early. But I think 6, 7 years old are capable of like understanding safety like that. And in come to America, it feels like they kind of delay your growth.
Yeah, no, they do.
I I think it's almost like you see so many man-child, right? So many people who are in a big physical body, but they're mentally are so not capable. I mean, at Columbia University, before the classrooms, my professors would send emails to trigger warning emails. Like today, we are going to cover these topics. Don't do the reading if it triggers you anyway. Don't even come to the class and don't even need to tell me why it triggered you. Then why on earth are you going to like university to learn how to think, right? And I think this somehow that American government is obsessed on letting people not be strong and not letting them be resilient. And this is so messed up. Like nobody in the world can do that. If you are like going to university, the least thing you can handle is got to be like sitting in the AC classroom, reading
Yeah,
some few text messages, right?
yeah.
It's not about going to battle and fighting physically. And this safe concept of safe space and cancel culture and trigger warning, all of these things is a joke to other countries, but Americans are taking too seriously. Now I think it's time to really reanalyze that even though maybe we began with good intentions, now actually it's harming people. People, so many Americans are over medicated. I live
Yeah.
in New York City. All my friends have a therapist. They cannot function without therapy. And like these people are living the best time of humanity, like in the best country, best resources, best science, anything that ever exists, all here. And they cannot handle day-to-day life.
And what do you think it is with that? Because like when I was growing up, and I know for sure with you
Mm-hmm.
and Rob here, you never heard all this ADHD and anxiety attacks
Anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
and depression at this extent. And here's a medicine for this, and then you take that medicine and it causes a side effect, and you take that. When you're traveling around, like you just said, everyone you know is going to a therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think the root of all that is? Just because they're not letting people grow and develop, they're forced to grow and develop over this strict, I don't know, I don't even know what you would call it, just this strict, step by step by them, rather than
Mm-hmm.
maybe you do have to sit by yourself for a little bit and figure out something
Mm-hmm.
to do, or how about deal with a problem without a
That's it.
drug?
Yeah.
But no, big
Yeah.
pharma wants to make money. So here's
Yeah.
a drug for this, here's a drug for that.
Mm-hmm.
Between the two books that you wrote, we have them up on the screen, In Order to Live and your new one, how much of a difference have you seen when you're writing In Order to Live? Talk to us about, what you're thinking and feeling at that time. And then you go write your new book. I just love the cover, by the way. That's why I keep
Ah,
going. You write your new book.
thank you.
When you go to write the new one, what big major differences have you seen and wrote about, so that if people haven't read them both, the difference between the two and just the dramatic change so fast?
Yeah, I think the first book was really more about pure my journey coming from North Korea to freedom, and not really expecting that I was going to see a lot of similar like tendencies that was happening in North Korea in America. The second book is also picking up where I left from first book, but like my life in America and what I observed. And the tendencies that I was noticing, like how the country was divided by this skin color. The ruling class is dividing people. And in North Korea, same thing. Like as we talked about, how are your ancestors did dividing your caste system in America. Now they call my son, who is like half white, a privileged person. Therefore he should be guilty. And he did not choose his skin color. Like, how on earth are you punishing somebody for something like that you didn't choose? Nobody right now alive in America owned this like slave, and you still punish people. And I think that exact same tactic that was used in North Korea is used in America, and also the language control. In North Korea, like the regime removed the words like love, compassion, freedom, human rights. And if you don't know the word, that means you don't understand the concept. And more, there's a battle with our language, what we can say, what we cannot say, especially during the pandemic. We could not say that COVID was coming from Wuhan, China. They say that's a racist, right? And it's, and living through that during the pandemic. And also you cannot challenge authority. In North Korea, of course, if you challenge authority, you get executed along with the regeneration of your family. But in America, during the pandemic, if you challenge authority, you lose your job, you lose your dignity. People call you racist and bigot, and you lose your livelihood. And that is a serious threat. And how do we call this a democratic society that respects freedom of speech? Like during the pandemic, I was living in Chicago, and I mean, literally, they made my son who's 2 years old wear mask up here 8 hours a day. And they opened the street clubs. They open nightclubs where people can go and do disgusting stuff. And then I tried to take my son to playground in the summertime with sunlight and air breeze coming through. They shut down the children playground, but open the dog parks.
Yeah.
So people with dogs can go to dog park, but parents with child cannot go to children playground. Like, this is not science at this point, right? This is a complete just crazy control the government is practicing. And once I challenge that, I get demonetized. I mean, you guys have YouTube channel, right?
Oh yeah. Oh shit. I got.
Yeah.
Yeah. You couldn't say ivermectin. You couldn't say COVID. You know, we had Peter McCullough on twice. We had Dr. Malone, the guy who made the vaccine. He was on, and we sat and we talked to him for 4 hours. It's the guy who made it, and it was one sensor bug after another sensor bug after, and it's like the guy made it. The guy made the vaccine. You know, Peter McCullough is the top cardiologist in the planet. It's not like we're talking to an ant that's saying, hey, you know, I'm not sure if this is anything more than the flu. And then even if you don't believe that, like you said, how can you go to a strip club with people all around you and party and go get a VIP with a girl, but you can't take your kid to the park? If that doesn't ring a bell, it goes back to before. Everybody's just looking at the phone and, oh, well, okay. Now, when you see this border, I think that it gets overlooked. It's as if terrorists aren't coming in through the border like free range. All the drugs and, you know, and all the human trafficking, which you talk about in your book. When you see this border where you can just walk through, here's a cell phone, here's a check. I couldn't believe it when they were telling me this stuff. You know, people that we've talked to, they literally give you money, give you a cell phone and say, hey, show up for this court date. Like, that's going to happen. That's if they catch you. When you see that, how dangerous do you think that is going to end up being? Like, right now we're ignoring it with the Ukraine BS, which I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm sure that's just a way to launder money and whatever else. But how do you feel about the border, and what do you think is going to happen in time when this all settles down and everything else?
That's the thing. Like, actually, during the pandemic, I don't know anybody that I know I lost during the pandemic from COVID, but I know I lost some people from the drug overdose, like young people, right? And that thing also, in Manhattan, I live like in Midtown. Whenever I take my son to go walk, they're like every corner, they're drug dealers selling drugs. And their drug wrapping is like in the purple, like child looking wrapping. So my son thinks the lollipop they're selling. Asked me to buy him it.
Oh.
And this is like near Manhattan, and the police standing there looking at it. We're asking them, why are you not doing anything? It's like, unless they really like murder somebody and start shooting everybody, we cannot really do anything. That's the bar that for the police to intervene. So if they just handing out the drugs to little children, that's fine.
Wow.
And this is like, so isn't it government job to protect the most vulnerable? Like, who is more vulnerable than children in any country, right? The children and elders. And they are refusing to protect American children from these drug lords standing there and selling drugs, exposing our children to that. And as a parent, you're so powerless. And this is what I see, that like, it's, forget even like the human trafficking part. We are losing so many American people each year in America, and they are more obsessed with defending Ukraine democracy. And so I think that's what we're like. I became American last year, and it does feel like finally I understood it. Like, when I came to America, that's when Trump was running for election, when he said like, the media is the enemy of the people, and the mainstream media was saying how Trump is like lying to American people. I was like, he was completely right.
Yeah.
I did not see that in 2016. I was criticizing so much because I did not know what the other side looked like, and I was never trying to become like politically incorrect. I never felt the censorship, and I think in some sense the pandemic really brought that to everybody, and I saw it myself. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that right now. Like, it was, in a way, that was a blessing to all of us to see how bad it got in America. And we finally understand we are not immune to tyranny in America. Like, even in this country, we are not immune to dictatorships that can happen in North Korea and China.
I just want to bring this up again, what you said. They're selling lollipops with fentanyl to kids, and the police officer is just standing there saying, well, it's not that bad. And then I go back to, well, you took that job to be a cop. You decided you wanted to be a cop. Okay, they defunded you, everything else. But you wanted to be a cop. You have your badge and everything else, and you're okay.
Yeah, but
Was selling a lollipop with fentanyl in it to a little kid that is Russian roulette?
But I bet that they want to arrest the people, but if it goes in front of the DA, he's just going to throw the charges out. So it's a waste. That's what happens in these big cities. The DAs don't prosecute.
Yeah,
They don't prosecute.
exactly.
So
Yeah, it's not the officer's problem. It's like the mayor gave him the order not to arrest anybody. Like during the pandemic in Chicago, they were looting and destroying the children's hospital. They were burning the prescription drugs. The people who need the drugs to survive, they could not get the drugs. These are complete barbaric, inhumane crime to commit. And even doing this, the police officers did not get authority to arrest these criminals. And we cannot blame them because, I mean, the mayor would not let them do that.
wow. Yeah, see, you don't know that. See, until you said that, I'm sitting here thinking, well, you went to be a cop, buddy. Do something. But the mayor won't let him do it. Because on the news, what do you see? A bunch of guys went into Louis Vuitton in New York and took a bunch of clothes and whatever. You never hear about that. They keep that real quiet. This episode is brought to you by Let's Get Checked. Are you the man your father was? Recent studies have shown that men's testosterone levels have dropped substantially since the 1980s at about an average of 1% per year. Think about how old your father was when he was born. For example, if he was 30, your testosterone levels could be 30% lower than his. Low testosterone levels can have all types of health effects on men. It can affect your mood, sex drive, memory, muscle mass loss, you name it. And yes, low testosterone is more common the older you get, but it can affect men at any age. So let's talk about today's sponsor, Let's Get Checked. You can order a testing kit that will be delivered to you in a discreet packaging with next-day delivery. Once your sample arrives in the laboratory, confidential results will be available from your secure online account within 2 to 5 days. So, if you want to test your hormone levels without having to leave your home, visit trylgc.com/MSCS Media and get 25% off your test using the code MSCS Media. The link is in the description at the top. This episode is brought to you by Fiji. More than just water.
This is not just rock. It's ancient volcanic rock that filters tropical rain, giving it double the electrolytes and its signature soft, smooth taste. It's not just water. It's Fiji water.
Right. It's not about the post office. They cannot act that themselves. They need to get the order, right? And their order coming from the mayor, and mayor telling them don't arrest anybody.
That's a great point.
So, yeah.
And then how do you fix that? Besides getting the mayor out, but he's on the hook.
Vote.
You got to vote. But, I mean, that's another thing. What do you think about the voting? To me, it's like, yeah, we have to get out there and vote or we're screwed. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, who cares? It's just about living a good life. But how do you, how do you beat them? How do you beat those uppers that just throw $10 trillion around like it's $3?
Right. I think it's that no matter what you do in Earth Matters, you really have to talk to the other side, right? And the governments, keep promising them universal income, free healthcare, free education, and they keep trying to steal from other people money and give it to these people to getting them votes. They're buying the votes from people, and that's the thing. Is so corrupt. It's like American politics is so openly corrupt. It's like they're gonna tax the people who work so hard and using that money to pay the people so they can keep buying the votes. So, of course, it's not as corrupt as the voting system in North Korea and China is. But it is kind of funny that American people don't see this, how bad this is. And as a North Korean, it's a lot of times I just laugh. It's so ridiculous. And it's such a common sense that people don't see it. And I think eventually, though, we have to fix the education system. It gotta start somewhere. And I'm just hoping that we speaking out and telling people and educating our children and telling them the value of freedom and, self-discipline, maybe that will fix something eventually. But
Yeah.
And still just keep fighting back, yeah, with the truth.
I think so too, because what they're doing now, you keep trying all you can, but if people like you and me and other people that we talk to can get to the youth and get them to see, hey, look, your friend over there got a sex change at 6 years old, and now they got 7,000 different medical problems, and they didn't really
Yeah.
want it. They were just talked into it. That's how I see it changing, where it gets that bad and so horrible, where then you unite, where then they can have all the money in the world, but then there's uniteness because the outcome of what's happening is at the forefront, where you can't deny it, you can't look at your phone, you can't look the other way.
Yeah, and also like you said, these apps like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all these apps, and just so much distraction. You're not like left alone to think and breathe and learn and reading books here, right? Talking to people. So that getting that discipline yourself and teaching your children that's very important.
It's
And so we don't get enslaved to these entities that is not real. It's like keep saying like life is really hard, and even in freedom, like right, we have to understand life is hard. It comes with the like responsibility
And
and teaching people that.
and I want you to explain it because they'll listen to you way more than me. when you say when you say not real, explain not real, because if I say it, they look at me like I got three eyes, like leave me alone. I'm going back on my phone. Or if I say, do you realize that every time you go on this app, it's downloading everything? Oh, I have nothing to hide. No, but what they don't realize is it's not just about war and everything else. It's how to control you. It's not just
Yeah,
TikTok.
yeah. So yeah, it's not only just like you are giving them your data. That's not the like maybe not the main issue. Like if you, for instance, you have a daughter, the problem of their brain, I mean, the anxiety level they get when they're on social media, especially Instagram. The pictures were not real. They're all filtered and airbrushed. And this unrealistic image. And then there is all about like, run away your parents are not safe. This is how you feel, that's totally fine. Like the brainwashing begins on TikTok, Instagram, and all the social media apps. And they follow these influencers that do not understand the human dignity at all, right? So it's important for them to understand it's not just like you don't care about they're taking your data, but what you're exposing your brain to. That's what's also to me very harmful as a mother to see that. And there's no way on earth as a mother I'm going to let my child to have a social media platform. Like it's no way. I'm an adult now. I have self-control. Like I can have my critical thinking skill that I got, right? So when I see things, I can still think critically, but children don't have it. They're very impressionable minds. And why every dictatorships, the first thing they go for children, Hitler's like youth, Mao's army, Kim Jong-il's youth, they all go for children because their mind is so plastic, they can just bend easily. And once you get brainwashed, it's really hard to come out of that.
Well, I think they've also destroyed the family network. The mom, the dad, your parents used to tell you what was right, what was wrong, and now the cell phone or the iPad tells the kid what's right and wrong, and the parent is, that's a way to shut the kid up for an hour or two, and now they're taking in information that you don't even know what they're watching.
Right, exactly. Like in North Korea, I remember first thing I go to school, my school teachers were telling me the most important father that you have is not your biological father, it's our dear leader Kim Il Sung. And and then before we eat meal, this is a food that my father almost dying to make, found and gave to me to survive. And then I have to bending and bow towards the dictators. Thank you, dear leader, for this meal, each meal that I was receiving. Right? Like the brainwashing is all about like the sacrifice your parents making is not important. They are not really important. They are like actual threats. And the most important thing is this ideology. And now in America, I see that like they keep telling children your parents are not safe space. If they don't accept everything about you, they are not safe. So you need to run away from them. And this is the same tactic. separating children from their parents, separating, families. And we are all separated and divided from each other, and we have no place to go other than just government eventually.
And I'm staying on this subject because I agree with you that it starts with the kids. Before you would go to a parent-teacher conference, I remember when my parents would go, I would be like, "Oh shit, what did I do? What are they going to tell them?" Now parents go in and they say, "Oh, Tommy did this, Rob did that, blah 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 blah." But in school, they give like the real paperwork, like, "Oh, what do you think about this?" But don't tell your parents because it's not safe for them to know, or they don't need to know. How do you get to the schools? I mean, that's another one. I mean, it's like so many battles, but that's really what they're doing. I mean, you could, that you won't find it on the news, but they're doing all this stuff now behind the parents' back, just like you said. So then one day the kid comes home and says, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to be a girl today." And
Yeah.
what do you mean? Well, I was in school and we've been talking about in school for the last year and a half, not history or science or math. We've been talking about gender for a year and a half now. And Dad, I think I want to be a woman or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so true. Like there are so many schools in California too. They are not obligated to tell parents if a child changes their name and identify themselves as a male or female. Like so many public schools do that. So I think it's just horrifying. I think it's like when you're a parent, it's the worst thing you can ever hear. And that's why, maybe they're finding some like Catholic schools. They are reasonable. They're not that expensive than other private schools. And maybe worst comes to the homeschool, It's better than having a completely brainwashed, bitter child than grateful and the homeschooled kid, if that's possible. So it's no wonder children are becoming so bitter and they think they are the most oppressed person in human history because they really learn that from their teachers and they get brainwashed. And getting them out of that place is a very difficult challenge. And in some sense, like my mother keeps saying that when I was in North Korea, I only went to school like 2 years because my father got arrested. And she was saying that's a blessing because for her, it's a lot harder for her to come out of it than me.
So when your father got arrested for what, like some smuggling thing? Is that what he was doing? Was it like cigarette? No problem. Yeah, North Korea. Imagine trying to get out of that place.
No, that's not fun.
That's not. That can't be a fun. Or imagine getting arrested there.
Well, you're dead if they catch you. I'm sure, right? That's it.
Nine times out of 10, yeah, you're a dead man.
Throw you in jail or lock the key away or
and then
execute you.
And then just hope that they don't go after your family.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, anything against their rules, it's not a detention slip or a go do community service. You're getting your head knocked off, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it just has to start with the kids because they're just too big above right now. But if you get to the kids and you keep going around with even teenagers, you got a shot.
Well, and I think it's just common sense. Like I said, if it's keeping the family structure. Once a family structure is broken, that's it. It's hard to, the kids are doing their own thing. Mom's trying to work 2 jobs. Kid has an iPhone, an iPad, and that's their life. It's sad to say that, but that's how they do it.
Yeah, that's another thing. You see, couples break up left and right. I mean, I went through it too. But if you're a single mom and you're not fortunate enough and you have to work 2 jobs, what do you do? What do you do? Here's the iPad. You need to rest too. So it's
Right.
when you go out and you talk to people, do you talk a lot about family structure, or what are some of the things that you talk about, and what kind of reactions do you get that not the normal person would know just from seeing your 3-minute clip that they edit on TV? Or I bet you love that. I bet you love that when you go, because I know that I can tell now from that we do this. They'll ask you a question and they give you 27 seconds to answer a question that takes a lot more than 27 seconds.
Right. Actually, this is really my first time talking more about families because initially I began my work as like exposing Chinese Communist Party that a lot of people understand the Black Lives Matter, of course, the slavery that happened in America, but they don't understand the modern day slavery is continuing. And there never was time more people being enslaved than currently right now. So, I was talking about how I was sold in China as a slave and how my mother was sold for $65.
Phew.
So I was trying to expose this to American people. And then I was keep realizing that they were keep saying, at least China, the governments care about people in America. Look at these corporations. They're exploiting people. America is actually, as bad as North Korea, even worse.
And you're like, what?
Yeah, it's like, what are you talking about? And if that were true, like who are trying to escape to China and North Korea right now? Right? Like the opposite, right? The people actually dying to come to this country, millions every month trying to come to America because this country is that wonderful. And people live here, they are so out of touch with the reality. They think this is like the worst country that you can imagine. And the Americans, colonialism and systemic racism, and this is a horrible country. And they said like the only solution is we gotta dismantle the system.
Mm-hmm.
And then we build a country in the name of equality of outcomes.
And how funny is that? I think it was when COVID, when Trump got in. Remember when Donald Trump got in? Chelsea Handler, all these celebrities, they were moving. Remember, they were moving.
Yeah,
they were out. I don't know.
Last
time I checked, they're still here.
Yeah, all my friends were going to Canada, not still here. Yeah, they're still very much here. None left.
How
so
much?
If they...
God, I'm sorry. God.
Yeah, please no.
When I was bringing up Trump, whether you like Trump, hate Trump, whatever side it is, I don't really think the sides really matter anymore.
Yeah.
How much, from your perspective, how much of a hold do you think Donald Trump really had on other countries and, these, I don't even know what to call them anymore because there's so many names, but I just say the uppers with controlling this, controlling that, because again, whether you like Trump or not, they don't like him because he's not the normal presidential person when he gets on the microphone. Okay, whatever. But you didn't see 3-year-olds getting taught this sex thing. You didn't see borders open. From your perspective with the other countries and some things that I think people overlook, how much of a hold did he have on America? How much better did you see America than now, being from where you're from?
I mean, it's interesting. I think when I got to America in 2016, that's when Trump was in the office, right? He joined the office. And I asked my friends, and that's when country was already getting so divided. I think Trump kind of maybe was exposing all the division in the people, or I don't know what it was. It seemed like everybody was in a heated debate.
Yeah.
And so many couples were separating people over politics. And friends, like, even among my friends circle, they get fights and they're blocking each other because somebody's supporting Trump and somebody's not. And then I was thinking, so I don't think I actually appreciate him as much as I should have at the time. And then after he left, I was realizing, oh God, he was the best president in my lifetime at least. Because at the time I thought like having a strong border, having a strong rule of law in the country, and telling other people, even telling NATO, like he was going to Germany and telling them, like, you guys having all these fears over Russia and you're asking me to defend you. And right, like he was just telling them straight what it was, and he was exposing China, and he was very, very brave in all that. Like he was had a lot of strength. But at the time, I just didn't see that. I thought it's like that's what normal leaders do. And now I'm thinking, okay, these leaders in America are very cowards. So it's in a way I actually appreciate him way more right now. And like, do you remember the time when Trump was president? The times were so much better.
Yeah.
I also think like, in the United States, it's the best thing to disagree. We don't always have to agree, and that's the best part about it. is I can have an opinion, you
Totally.
can have an opinion. We can respectfully agree to disagree sometimes and have a conversation, but no one wants to have that conversation anymore. What would happen in North Korea if you disagreed with something or you tried to state your opinion? What happens there?
There's no such a thing called disagreement. I mean, it's not a word that we have. You get executed. I mean, if you say things like that, maybe our country's not the best in the world, then that's how you get executed. You know, not even saying you're a dictator or you're like taking advantage of people. So that's not a debate is not a concept. In dictatorships, that's not a concept.
Yep.
You they say that what only matters is when North Korea came and trying to criticize me, they said that when I was a child, I was very individualistic. And you guys think like in the West, like that's like a normal thing, right?
Yeah.
But for North Korean, that is the worst criticism you can criticize for someone. Like calling somebody racist. It's like that. When she was young, she was so individualistic. Because in North Korea, they tell you when you're a child, individuals don't matter. You matter only when you are part of big collective, part of the group. And so they completely deny the individualism. And they don't even have the word I. So when I was in North Korea, I said like, I like red color. I cannot say I. We love red color.
Wow.
We love our country. Even I was talking about my feelings because we did not know what I was.
And that's all you knew growing up. So to you, that's just normal.
Right.
What about
Yeah.
when Trump went over to North Korea? Were you shocked by that? when he went over there by himself? I mean, whether you liked him or not. I mean, to me, I was like, is he out of his mind? Like going over there right now? He just called him Rocket Man.
Right.
What did you think of that? Take me through your thought process when that had happened.
Yeah, so actually, what Trump did on the surface was not everything that his intentions actually when he was even meeting, shaking hands with Kim Jong-un. I actually saw what behind the scenes he was doing. Actually, he despised the dictatorship, but he thought if he give the trust to Kim Jong-un that he would denuclearize and start helping his own people. So, but at the time, I really thought like Trump was, underestimating Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un is very logical dictator. He's not some emotional guy. They've been doing this for 80 years. They understand the game.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what Trump does, Kim Jong-un knows that Trump gonna get out in 4 years or 8 years maximum. And Kim Jong-un has a lifetime to have, fulfill his policy. So Kim Jong-un was trying to buy time with Trump. That's all he did. And Trump, I think, really thought about it as an after the DC. He was like not a politician. That was his thing. Like thinking about like, let me like go talking to slumlords and setting up a hotel and casino here, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of like I was reading the art of deal. Okay, this is where it came from. Like he really thought he could do that in politics. So, I mean, but one thing that he did was Trump was so strong. North Korea was not there to conduct any long-range missiles under Trump. They were scared. Now with Biden, I mean, they do it every few days. And Biden calls North Korea, they don't even pick up the phone. But when Trump was in the office, at least North Korea really feared America, and they were like following these like regulations. So, I think meeting Kim Jong-un was like really unnecessarily legitimizing him.
Mm-hmm.
But at least he tried. And now the world knows that there's no way Kim Jong-un is going to get rid of the nukes and start like taking care of his people. It's not going to happen.
Do you think there's ever a chance in our lifetime that North Korea or any of these communist dictator countries can change?
If China changes, North Korea will change automatically along with them. So people don't understand North Korea is almost like their Chinese a little bit like what we call little brothers.
Mm-hmm.
China wants North Korea to be one of their regions like Tibet and Xinjiang. So in North Korea, so many coal minings and towns were leased to China for like somewhere between 50 years to 300 years. After you use a land for 300 years, it's yours. We all know that.
Yeah.
So that's what China does. They don't like drive the tanks up and go invade the country. Their colonialism is like buying it. They lend the money to the countries that they obviously know they cannot pay back. And the officials who are so corrupt in the bureaucracy, right? So they go make a deal with the top official who is so corrupt, give them the lend the money and build their coal mining, everything. And then a few hundred years later, nobody can pay that back. And people got used to Chinese rule and that's how they softly absorb the country. And that is a tactic that they've been using with North Korea, a lot of countries in Africa, even in South America. I mean, in the Middle East, that China has been doing that. That's how they've been expanding their power. And even in America, right, they are giving money to Hollywood studios. And instead of that, the Hollywood studios need to make a movie that is very pro-CCP. They cannot criticize China. They have to make the Chinese people in the movies heroes now, right? And the white guys are evil, and communists are like heroes. So it's something called the soft power politics is happening. So as long as China exists, North Korea will not change their direction because they are the puppets of China right now.
And then how would you possibly change China? Because like you said, you're not the first person that I've heard this from. You know, say Rob makes $1 million a year, and I go to Rob, and I know he can't afford this. Rob says, "I need $50 million." Sure, here's $50 million, no interest.
Oh, thanks, Tommy.
Interest free. Interest free.
Thank you.
But I know now that Rob owes me now that $50 million, and for the rest of his life, I'm gonna have him do. Oh, Rob, don't say Tommy in a bad way. Oh, Rob, don't compete with me.
You gotta find me first. I'm heading to Costa Rica.
But that's what you're saying China's doing with not just the U.S. They're doing this with multiple countries to then have such power over them. What's your thoughts on the whole China and Taiwan thing? I mean, do you think anything will happen with that at all? Everybody acts like, well, they're waiting to see what Russia and Ukraine are going to do. Russia and Ukraine have been going at this forever. I mean, they were the Soviet Union. I mean, why we're even involved in this other than money laundering, I don't know. But that's for another day, I guess. But what do you see, now with China, what do you see happening with that?
I think that China is definitely very sensitive to Taiwan. I mean, even like, you remember John Cena in America, the pro wrestler? Like he said like Taiwan is a country and then he had to like beg and apologize and bow, right? In Chinese, like completely disgrace. But that was not only happening. Even in South Korea, the Taiwanese celebrities were coming to South Korea and they say, oh, I'm from Taiwan. Just saying I'm from Taiwan, they had to make like this apologizing videos. Otherwise, the Chinese cancel the celebrity. So you can see the fear even in Taiwanese. They cannot say no longer I'm Taiwanese. Like they have to say I'm Chinese.
Jeez.
So that they are using this another economic power. They have a control over so many movie production making and celebrities and politicians and NBA and sports, everything. So I think China, to me, is that they don't even need to invade if they keep going this direction. I mean, now there was a World Health Organization. They will start recognizing Taiwan as a country, right? So many public institutions, even in America, start recognizing Taiwan as a country because China gets so upset. And remember this time, they called Taiwan and then China got so upset. Nancy Pelosi, right?
Yeah.
So because of that, I think it will come. But I think the method, maybe I'm sure China gonna try their best to using this soft method, right, to control over China. And they subsidize Taiwanese economy heavily. And there's already a lot of politician parties that pro-China because they get funding from China and businesses are succeeding because of China. So Chinese tactics are a lot more, I think, intelligent than Putin's methods. They don't drive up tanks and like invade in some sense. right? They use like they plan this like horrifying tactics in advance. So no, everybody eventually have to follow what China wants,
Because
and it seems that way. Either,
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, they control
Yeah,
the
read without
economics.
bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like read or without bullets, China will get Taiwan.
Yeah, I don't even
And
think
to
they're gonna need
me, it's
bullets.
like, yeah, I said to me, that's like bullet is not something only the only way you can invade some country. It's like China found a lot of way. That's like economic. And even in America, like all these elites, American elites, I mean, they're in the pocket of China. They're willing to sell America to China for their economic gains. And that's what we're seeing every day here. So
Yeah.
even in America, someday being sold over China.
Well, yeah, like you said, like all these countries, Taiwan, it doesn't matter who it is. China has
Mhm.
been so patient for so many years. And now they
Yeah.
have the best chip
Yeah.
makers, the best this at the cheapest price.
Yeah.
And now what are you going to do? Fight them? What are we going to fight them with bullets? That's not going to do
Yeah.
anything. All they have to do is hit a switch, stop the trade, and then what? We have nothing. We have no computers. We have no nothing. Nobody has anything. They don't need to do anything. You know, they have such a monopoly basically. And then, you know, this company here, this company there, they'll move to the U.S. But, you know, like Apple, you know, they started making some of their chips in America. And I didn't realize it until I forget who it was, but they can have all the chips that they want in the U.S., but every one of the phones, every one of the computers, everything is China. It's just that maybe we made the chip here, but sent it to China to put together. So I don't see a way out of that one.
India.
That's why what Trump was right. Yeah, Trump was asking all the manufacturing to come back to America, right? And during the pandemic, it exposed how incapable we were. Like we could not make the ventilators. We could not make a mask. The number one economy in the world could not make a mask. This simple technology, I can make a mask myself, right?
Yeah.
So it really exposed how fragile our supply chain was and how we need to be self-reliant. We need to bring these jobs back to country and start it in empowering American middle class.
We have to. And if we ever mess with them, they're just going to take out our grid.
Yeah, of course.
And can you talk a little bit about because you know you've been through both of them, how you left North Korea, you know, to South Korea, to China, to Mongolia? Can you give us a little brief how that went? Because I know that was not a fun time, but not too much because everybody should read your book because your book's really eye opening. I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting across from you. Really, it is. I mean, some of the shit that you went through was crazy, and then still make it here, and then still have a positive attitude is quite amazing, really.
Oh, thank you. So I was born in North Korea, and when I was growing up in North Korea, I thought like Americans were cold-blooded reptiles. You know, even like I think joking like even in my math class, they were saying, you know, there are four American bastards, you kill two of them. Then how many American bastards left here? Like even math is like a tool to brainwashing children. They could not just like, there are like four oranges and you like eat two of them. How many oranges left to eat? It's not like the oranges and apples like that. It's like all American bastards to like 7 years old, right? And if you see like satellite picture of North Korea, is literally the darkest place in the world. They don't even have electricity in the 21st century. And of course, people don't even know what the existence of internet is. And people are not even allowed to travel between towns. And North Korean people don't even have freedom to choose what they wear, what haircut they get, the movies they watch, the songs they listen to. They even get arrested if they move their body in the wrong way.
Wow.
Again, that's how governments control you. There's like a fashion police. So growing up there, like not knowing that I was even Asian, my school teachers told me that I was Kim Il-sung race, my dear leader's race. And North Korean calendar begins when Kim Il-sung was born, not when the Jesu Christ was born. So I can say that, like, literally it's a different planet. You know, the things that we know here, North Korean people don't even know. They don't even know what Asia is. They don't even know what the Jesus Christ is. They have no idea. And when I was 13 years old, I simply just couldn't find anything to eat. So that led me to escape from North Korea at 13.
So when you left North Korea, why to China and not somewhere else, and then to South Korea?
So North Korea has a border with the South Korea in the south. And that is the most like heavily militarized zone. Like they bagged landmines miles and miles. Like it's impossible to escape through there. And only few people made it escape through there. They were the border guards who knew the route. So, and as a North Korean, you cannot even get the travel permit to travel inside North Korea. So going to South Korea is not possible. And there's a border between China and Russia on the top. That is also very hard to get to. So the only thing we could do was escaping to China that way.
That just seemed like the,
Because we all
the
had
best
to,
option. Yeah.
right? Because we all had to walk. It's not like North Koreans can take a train or airplane and escape.
And what?
Like everything's by walking.
You mean you're not getting on your private jet to go?
No.
What happens if you got caught?
Wow. It's if you were it's so it's a little bit different. If you were trying to get caught and they know that if I were trying to go to South Korea, then I get executed. But if I were just trying to go find food in China and come back, then they send me a prison camp. And usually even you send to prison camp, you don't last more than 3 months, you die. So basically death sentence. But like they at least like send you prison camp first and let you die and you work to death for you. But like if they understand you were trying to escape the country completely, then that's when they kill you.
So either way, if you get caught trying to leave there, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah.
What are the differences between North and South Korea? And is there any way they would come together more, where it's not so crazy, or it's just too much of the aboves?
Yeah. The difference between North Korea and South Korea is like huge, right? One is like democratic country.
Oh.
One is like collective socialist country. So ideologically, they're very, very different. I mean, one country that respects human rights, one doesn't. And so the only way that North Korea and South Korea can become one is a Germany, like, that they become both democratic, or Vietnam, or become communist. And as you can imagine, of course, South Koreans doesn't want that. They don't want to be like communists. And North Korea, their dream is unifying Korea under the communist umbrella. And so, of course, South Korea's goal is like making the country unified under the democratic system. That's why the unification never happens until this point, because both of them are holding onto their system.
Mm-hmm.
And these two systems do not mix very well. So it seems that as long as both countries insisting on democracy and dictatorship, they are not gonna mix well.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that. If I hadn't asked, you wouldn't know that. You kind of just look at it like, okay, you got North Korea, South Korea, they're kind of the same. Do you think North Korea under the right, like under a Biden, do you think they would set off a nuke on somebody, or do you think they're just getting them to have them ready? Like how much of a fear would you say North Korea really is?
So North Korea definitely right now has a capability of reaching American mainland, but it's not enough to destroy entire country. But they can make a damage to New York, Chicago, California, right, and DC. So their goal is not really attacking right now. They're trying to keep building their capability that is very strong eventually, that America cannot do anything to North Korea. And America is never doing anything to North Korea anyway. But their goal is like eventually death America, right?
Right.
And they want the whole world to become under socialist rule, like China too. Like as long as there's democracy alive, it's a threat to their ruling in their country, because people want to escape to freedom. And if all world become like them, it's easier to rule people. So that's why they do not like democracy, because they say it's a threat to them, threat to their existence. So they are not gonna like, I don't think, new America at any time. soon, but they are definitely becoming stronger every day. So they can, like, one day if they decide to attack America, they can do that.
Yeah, so they can keep up. They're right now they're just keeping up with the technology. So if they need to, they can, or to put fear. And we all know that China, their goal is to be the America, the boss, to align with. It looks to me like they want to align with Russia, Serbia, all of them. Do you see that happening one day? In your eyes, do you see that happening one day where they all kind of align and China's the big dog, especially if something doesn't change?
Yeah, it's like they are already the big brother to all these countries, right? They have economic power over so many African countries. The Silk Road, that route they are doing in the Central America, South America as well, in Europe as well, in America as well. So America wants to practice that superpower in the world and get that all advantage as being a superpower. Everybody gotta listen to them, and their rule becomes the norm for the rest of the world. And I think China will not give up on that ambition, as far as I can see. I don't think they will ever give up on that.
Especially when we depend on them so much,
Right.
Now,
For sure.
when you go around and speaking to people and getting on shows, what are one or two of the most shocking things that you've seen? You're out there, you're saying, hey, look, this is the direction that this country's going in. We already know what's going on, but what are one or two of the most shocking things that was said to you or that you've seen or reaction that you just were like, wow?
So what shocks to me is that this is a democratic country. Like, we hire governments to do things for us, perform the services that people want. And seems like the daily, like, normal American people are very much aware how the border is becoming a threat to our existence, our safety. But the people in the power are so disconnected from that, the American people's concerns. Like, the ruling elite of America, their concern is like the pronoun problems, the bathroom problems for the transgender people. And daily life Americans are actually worrying about crime, economic, inflation, right? The schooling, education system that American children cannot even read, most of them right now. The education system is so falling behind. And that the concerns for people that have is a real concern. The politicians do not represent this actual reflect this actual concerns. So it feels like that America is almost like, it's not a caste system for sure, but the divide, not just economically, but the divide in understanding the world is very separated. And that's what I was writing in my book, that the hypocrisy of the elite. I was meeting Nancy Pelosi and Jeff Bezos. They really don't understand what it means to be an average American in the country right now and what are our concerns, right? Like me getting into the subway every day in New York City, I know that I'm risking my own life getting into this public transportation. But for them, they think, oh, me sending all this more money to troops to Ukraine, that's how I virtue signal that I'm a great person. Right? They don't understand what American people are dealing with every day and with this crime, and it's unbelievable. So it seems that politicians are not listening. It's people are talking, speaking out, but they're not being heard, even though this is a democracy. So that's what's concerning to me, that in true democracy, if people talk, then we should be being heard, right? Our problem should be being a concern to politicians, but it's not. They are completely not listening to people anymore.
And you make up a great point. You don't see these other countries sending $10 trillion to another country to fight a war. You don't see that, sending ships, sending that. You don't see any other country. We're the only ones doing it. Meanwhile, we're falling apart, going in debt, going broke, everything else. What do you, because it's pretty important right now, what do you see happening in the 2024 election? Not really who knows who's going to win or whatever, just how do you see that how do you see that coming about?
Eh, it's nobody really knows, but I feel like if the country continue this way, yeah, I mean, we are seeing the fall of civilization, right? The American empire is definitely falling. We are witnessing that, the death of this great, great country. And we have a time to save it, but I think it's really up to the American elite. Do they want to save it? And a lot of American people doesn't have that power anymore.
Yeah.
So, even I just don't even get it in the midterm election. I really thought like the crime was real, inflation was real, and education was real. And with that, still Republicans couldn't win, right? That was not enough. And if this is not enough, I don't know what can be enough. So I'm not even hoping for 2024. Like I feel like the half of the country are just completely detached, and they're so ideologically driven.
And then, I think another bigger thing is it's like I think a lot of Americans, and, we're trying to make things better, but you get to the point and you see this guy that he gets 80 million more votes than Obama, 80 million. And that really happened. And then you have the midterms and, box 3 showed up here and this box showed up there and this recount here. And, this building blew up here that might have had this. And then I think the American people get like, well, what's the point? Like it's almost that what's the point? Okay, I'm going to go out and vote for who I want, but does it really matter? And that's the thing I'm scared of, because if that ends, then you're thrown in the towel. And if you get enough people to like you and me and Jovan and a bunch of other people we've had on, just keep pounding it down that forget about the border and whatever else. The kids, look what they're doing to kids. If you don't have kids, people that have kids, so that's why I always try to bring that up, because look, and then just the nasty, disgusting things that are going on. You can't go to public school anymore. Rob's got 2 boys, and they're acting weird in there. They don't even have shop. What is it called? Wood shop. Like when I was growing up, we had wood shop. They took that out. They took arts. They took everything. So, I don't know. Maybe one time when you're not busy, you could fly in, and it'll be a lot easier than the Zoom thing. I don't want to make you late for your flight. But is there any last thing, you want to shout out there? We'll have all everything in the description for you, and really appreciate your time. I'm sure you hate this Zoom thing as much as I do.
No, but thank you so much for being so patient, like with my special condition right now.
We're all human,
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll make sure you have a safe flight and try to get better. I'm sure we'll both be sick 100 times with our little kids running around. But maybe when we both don't have cold, you got to fly in, and then we could sit and have a good conversation.
Where are you guys based right now? Where are you right now?
Florida, Palm Beach, Florida.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful there.
Yeah, when you come, you can take the kids with the ocean and play on the beach, and people aren't running into stores yet and robbing the whole stores, and there's no lollipops on the corners.
Not yet.
Perfect. I love that. Yeah, let's do that next time. Let's definitely do something in person, more fun.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Than't you so much for your time. You're a sweetheart, and keep going. Keep going. And for whatever it's worth, I'm proud of you for getting here, and keep pushing.
Thank you so much. Let's stay in touch. Have a great one.
You too. Have a safe flight.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. This podcast is brought to you by Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet. Monster Energy. It's the ideal combo of the right ingredients in the right proportion to deliver a big bad buzz that only Monster can. Monster packs a powerful punch. Has a smooth, easy drinking flavor. Athletes, musicians, co-eds, road warriors, metalheads, geeks, hipsters, and bikers dig it. You will too. Monster Energy is more than just the green OG. Monster has Monster Ultra, Juice Monster, Monster Hydro, Rehab Monster, Dragon Tea, Monster Max, Muscle Monster, and many more. Buy on Amazon, buy on Walmart, or go to monsterenergy.com and believe me, you'll find a place. Unleash the beast. Monster Energy.